Okay, this is Barbara Ellistad with Mesquite Citizen Journal, and we're here today with Councilman Carl Gustaveson. And he's the longest sitting council person on the Mesquite City Council. I won't call you the oldest. And
I'm not. Close though.
Okay, see? We're going to talk about the last 100 days that he's been part of the city council, and with the new administration and 3 new councilmen sitting on the dais with him, and get his perspective on some of the changes that have been made and what he sees for the future of Mesquite. So thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Barbara, for giving me the opportunity.
Okay, you're welcome.
I enjoyed talking with you. So.
Well, thank you. Now that the new administration has been in place for just over 100 days now, you were on the council, you're going into your 5th year, you just mentioned, and you were part of previous councils. So how does it look with the new council versus the team that you had with you in the old council? I always sense, and I think a lot of people also do, that there has been a significant change. So give us your thoughts about that.
Well, first of all, it's not just a change from over my tenure on the council. It hasn't just been a change from one council to another. Actually, there's been another election after the first 2 years I was here that made some changes even at that point in time. So
that's right, in 2009.
I think I really have a comparison of 3 different councils as opposed to just 1 or 2. But
yeah.
But the current council is of course made up of and the mayor made up with people who have had no experience in government to the best of my knowledge. Craig Hafen, I think, has been very, very active in terms of behind the scenes in politics and this area and actually in the state of Nevada. But it's a lot. And
he did sit on the Virgin Valley Water Board.
Yes, he did.
For several years.
Yeah, for several years, and I think at one period of time, I think he was actually president for 2 or 3 years during his tenure on the water district. And believe me, that might be tougher than being on the city council. So
yeah, you've been the president of the Virgin Valley Water Board now for what, 2 years?
Well, I've been president for about almost 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not quite.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a lot of work. It's somewhat similar, but at the same time, much different.
Well, you know, the new council has made some significant changes in the first 100 days. They've opened up tech reviews to the public. They brought back school crossing guards. They suspended the airport EIS. You know, those are some campaign issues that the newly elected officials fought for during the campaign. But I think probably the most significant change they've made that you were a very vocal opponent of was rescinding the code of conduct for elected officials. Can you speak to that and talk a little bit about it and maybe even some of the other changes, how those felt to you, so to speak?
Sure, I'd be happy to talk about the code of conduct, but I think you missed one. You missed one thing that happened in 2 councils, because nothing ever really happens. Everything's bridged from one council to another.
Right.
Because things take years sometimes to develop. But one of the things that I was very strongly in favor of was doing something about the election cycles, because I felt that about 25% of our total population was disfranchised because they didn't have the opportunity to vote during the time they were in Mesquite. So I was happy to see that the new council, because there was some people on that council when they were running, were very much against that, and
Right.
Miraculously, once the vote came back after the last election, and the citizens of Mesquite overwhelmingly wanted that particular thing, I'm glad that they were able to make that adjustment and do just exactly what the people had asked. Because I think even in the RJ
Yes.
there was an article, that's great because they tried to do this statewide and there wasn't the will to do it. Now we'll see if Mesquite has the will to do it, if it actually passes a referendum. So yes, Mesquite and the new council. So I think that's a good accomplishment for one of their accomplishments.
Right, because they were very vocal against.
It doesn't have to be
changing.
your idea. It can be a
That's
previous
right.
administration's idea.
Yeah.
But you still have to have the courage to make the right decisions. My old campaign motto from my last election, and I still have a little reminder of that on my card to remind me every day that this isn't about me, or it's not about my friends, because many times I've had to vote against friends and they say, why are you doing that? I thought we were friends. It's about what's good for the community. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping, and after, I'm starting to see some of that in this first 100 days. I've seen some just to the reverse side of that, where we have a little bit of narrow-mindedness sometimes, and we're not re-looking at the community in its entirety.
Can you give a couple examples, or do you want to be on record for that?
If I do that on record, then I think those individuals probably already know what I'm talking about. But there has been some cases of that. I think one of the other, some of the other positive things, I guess, which are extensions of what was already going on. Of course, the new freeway exit, the 120 freeway exits, is going ahead, and despite what we all thought after the first 2 or 3 or 4 weeks when nothing seemed to be happening, or maybe 5 or 6 weeks, things really start to move ahead on that. And
I just came up from Vegas, and let me tell you, the constructions, I came off the off-ramp, and it is going full blast.
Yes, it is. So anyway, I think that's a great thing for the community. Let's see, I think you mentioned, give me a couple of the others you mentioned. You mentioned the
tech reviews.
The tech review. I think it's fine. We always had a review. Nothing really is any different now. I think that the one good thing maybe of making it public, I think there's an up and downside to it, because I think that the downside is that I think that we're not doing it exactly appropriately by having public. Public doesn't mean public coming in and trying to help you make your decision before you're even supposed to be talking about making decisions, and a little bit of that's happened. And we've had a few citizens that I appreciate them coming in, but to come in and to try to in an open, when they've given an opportunity for open dialogue, to have that dialogue. In the old tech meetings, we weren't allowed to have that type of dialogue among each other, because we would have been debating the issue before it ever even got to so it was basically just an information finding. And I know you've attended most of those, and you can see that basically is what it is. There's nothing divisive ever happening there. So I guess the positive side of that is that those few people, I say a few, because I think its numbers about 4 or 5 who attended maybe more than once. I think that I hope they've got the word out and said, this wasn't a closed door deal where they were in there making decisions and trying to plot against the community.
I've never seen anything of that nature.
But you and I know a lot of that was the type of dialogue that was going around the community at one time. That
and it was a lot of perception.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about your opposition to rescinding the Code of Conduct. You were very vocal about it. I've written many articles about it.
Yeah,
but I think this is an opportunity to just, without a lot of chatter in the background, especially me, that this is an opportunity to explain why you were opposed to rescinding that code.
Well, I think it's really pretty simple. Whether Mesquite will live or die on a code of conduct, there's no doubt we'll do just fine without a code of conduct. But I think the code of conduct does two or three things, and I think that our new council, I think, had some misperceptions. And in fact, there was one unfortunate comment made about the code of conduct was used as a weapon. Well, unfortunately, that was a very inappropriate comment to make, because it was slandering some very good people that have worked very hard, including myself, because it was never used against anybody.
Yeah.
The code of conduct is the code of conduct, and everybody had one, or had a copy of it, and they all signed it, and everybody was familiar with what it was, and nobody was ever, I don't know if anybody was ever punished in any way, shape, or form. There was anything in the code of conduct. The code of conduct is just simply, it talks about things like how to conduct a meeting, and how to speak appropriately to one another, and to share information, and to speak appropriately to the audience, and to treat them with respect, and so on. So it's basically just kind of helps you, because it's pretty easy once you get up there and somebody starts really hammering on you about some issue. It could be pretty easy for you to do some inappropriate things, and we see that happen. And I'm sure I've been guilty of it a time or two, but I always thought about the code of conduct. I went back and I looked at, in fact, I've had some other people do the same thing. I pulled up like 80, 90 different cities just at random. And to be frankly honest with you, I never found one. I found a couple that had just initiated them in the last year or 2 years. But it's pretty common, and it's real common with every service organization I've ever belonged to has a code of conduct. If you go to Rotary, they have a code of conduct. I don't care what organization you belong to. There's a code of conduct, because it reminds us of who we should be and not who we are. I thought it was extremely inappropriate for them to want to do that, because I think what it did, because this information obviously went out on YouTube, went all the way across the country. I think this community's had enough of that type of stuff, and I think that, unfortunately, I think our city council engaged in doing the same thing, because I think all it did is it degraded our perception of Mesquite as a little more, because that isn't who we are. Yeah. We're a community that's full of a lot of people that don't need a code of conduct. I agree. Yeah. And we had council people saying up there, well, I'm a big boy, I don't need one. Well, since that, I've seen some of those very same people who done some things that definitely would have been not considered appropriate. But nonetheless, not that bad. I mean, I think the meetings have really gone pretty well. But I think it was something that was unnecessary. It was just some type of a stupid political statement they were trying to make. I don't think that anybody ever promised anybody during the election that they were going to do that. And besides that, I think we all learn as we play with politics a little bit that it's very easy to know what people might think is a really good idea, and it may be a very bad idea, but